Hello, Richard. Thank you for joining us.
Hello, James. Thank you for having me.
Good to see you. For those of you who don't know, this is Richard Farnsworth, who's Director of External Communications and BT.
Thank you.
So look, we'll go straight into it. The first question is that dreaded cocktail party question of, wait, what do you actually do again?
So, the first thing to say is if I am asked that question at a cocktail party or
Yeah.
in the pub, the chances are you'll get a really long and garbled answer from me.
Um,
So this is a really excellent question because it's helped me to refine the answer.
oh, that's good.
I'm going to steal from somebody. Look, the short answer is our job is to guide what people think about BT when we're not in the room. Ultimately, it's about really trying to shape the reputation and perception of the business. And then, of course, the truth is that so much of that is working with a really wide group of people within the organisation, but then also outside it, and having one foot in and one foot outside the business. The other one, and again, I'm stealing from somebody here, but this is probably less about specific to external communications and more broadly about being in corporate affairs. There's quite a big part of our role is to be the conscience for the organisation and sort of guiding and advising through some potentially really thorny, almost ethical at times, the kind of the crossover of ethics and commercial, which I think makes it a totally fascinating job because you get to see all manner of things and hear all manner of, really quite interesting, juicy, at times, more often than not, highly confidential things that with a bit of luck, rarely see the light of day.
And that is the good stuff, right? That's where it's really exciting, and you have an opportunity to add value. But I suppose it also it highlights the importance of having a leadership that get it and understands the value you can bring, and that what you're trying to do is help the organisation operate in the best environment it possibly can.
Yeah, that's right. And actually, I think to do that, you need a really clear set of priorities and you need to be really disciplined about saying no to things, and not just no because we don't have the resource or we don't have the time. It's no because this isn't going to add value on this particular journey that we're trying to get to, hit these particular commercial objectives that we're trying to achieve.
Well, that's the funny thing, right? Because everyone comes in when they start, and in some ways it's about creating information flow through the business and just raising the profile of comms and what it can do. Problem is, once you've done it, then everyone wants a piece of you, and that's when you have to start saying, actually, no, this doesn't meet our strategic priorities at this point.
Yeah, I think that's right. I also think in comms, so many of us are, we're people pleasers.
It's that in common as well, actually.
Yeah, I'm sure, and it genuinely doesn't come naturally to say no and to deliver sort of hard answers to questions. And so having a really clear strategy it gives you the confidence, apart from anything else, to make those calls because you can point people back to it and say no because, and then you sort of you point back to that strategy, whatever the plan says.
Brilliant. That's a really good answer. Not garbled at all. It must have something to do with how much alcohol you've imbibed.
Yeah, exactly. I feel like I've given you a strange answer where I've almost told you all the things that we don't do in the job.
In some ways, that is the job in lots of ways.
Yeah.
So that's great. Looking back over your career, which is varied in terms of sector experience for sure, is there a specific piece of career advice that you would offer a more junior or younger version of yourself?
This is a really interesting question, and I don't feel like I've got an absolute sort of killer blow silver bullet answer. I think I've got a two-part answer actually. I've got a literal answer to your question. What would I have done more of back then? And so I started out in agency, but actually, regardless of whether I was in agency or in-house, I think the advice I'd have given my younger self would be just absolutely invest in the network, in your personal network. And I always used to think that network involved going into really scary rooms of people you didn't know and having to sort of have, cold conversations with people, which, I still to this day find very difficult and
can't stand it.
Yeah. Whereas actually that's not my network. My network are the people who I meet with on a one-to-one basis, or the journalists that I deal with and try and hopefully form really good relationships with them. It's such a much more organic thing.
Yeah.
And I've found actually that I really enjoy doing it. I really love kind of nurturing my network. And in a weird way, the more I think of it in those terms, the less I like it, because actually what I really enjoy doing is just forming a relationship with people.
Yeah.
So that would be the advice I'd give to my younger self. And the reason I'm going to give you a two-part answer is that the advice I would give to people in early careers today, and forgive me because this might be very old school, just try and immerse yourself in an environment where you can learn from people. And I think that is more difficult today in a hybrid working environment.
Yes.
I'm not saying get to the office 5 days a week. That's not what we preach. It's not what we do here. But you can absolutely find ways of kind of listening in and of learning by osmosis. And I think that's harder to do in the hybrid world than it was in the world that I started out in when you really were in 5 days a week. But I don't think it's impossible.
I think it's a really good point, isn't it? Because it's somewhat lazy to beat up on Gen Z in the sense of, oh, they don't like to go out networking in the same way we used to, and they're not focused on building relationships in that way. But in some ways, it's about leading by example. And when we're in the office less, there is fewer opportunities for us to lead by example and to give them that sort of exposure. And I think that's absolutely right. The relationships game, it is basically what we do, you know.
Yeah.
And I think people get stuck in this kind of transactional way of doing things these days. But actually, it's the non-transactional stuff you do in your career that will make you successful in the long term.
Yeah, I think that's right, actually. Take the time that you need to do the reflective stuff, to do the learning stuff. Actually, genuinely to do the thinking. That interestingly, I think becomes more of a challenge kind of later in your career, because actually you're relied on to do that thinking, to do the strategy setting. And of course, you probably have a bit less time to do it, so you really have to work hard to make that time. But even in your early career, taking the time to really deliberately ask the questions, or proactively ask the questions rather than just waiting. And I guess I think in a world where you were working 5 days a week in the office, you could probably a bit more rely on osmosis.
Yeah.
Whereas now, I think you probably have to seek out a little bit more. As I say, proactively ask those questions of not just senior people, but just a broad range of people, so that you're kind of building all those perspectives.
Excellent. Well, that was a really good 1.5 part answer. I think they were both very closely linked from that point of view. So no, that was great. Thank you. So if you weren't working in communications, what would you be doing, or what would you like to be doing?
So the flippant answer to that question is, I've always wanted to be an F1 driver, for the simple reason that only an F1 driver can drive an F1 car. Anyone could go hiking. Anyone, doesn't have to be a professional. Anyone can pick up a golf club, play football, be a musician, have a go at anything. You cannot, unless you're an F1 driver, get in the cockpit of an F1 car. And I just think that looks so mesmerizingly fun and terrifying as well. My slightly more realistic answer is, I would love to be a sort of a house renovating builder of some description. I know one of your previous guests.
Yeah, Mary.
It was
But it was interior design, right?
Exactly, yeah. So maybe we should team up here. But yes, I particularly love the kind of the tangible ness of building DIY, really kind of seeing the fruits of your labor. I know that sounds a bit corny, but it's so true. That sort of moment of standing back and thinking, oh, I built that, I did that, is a really nice feeling.
Yeah, absolutely. Does that make your guilty pleasure then is grand designs and the like from that point of view?
I don't think I've missed an episode.
Yeah, it's good stuff.
I love it.
Has to be said.
Yeah.
I love both those answers. The F1 point is not one I'd ever considered, really, because you're right. Anyone can pick up a golf club and hack around a golf course.
Yeah.
But there is no frame of reference for that existence.
No.
I'd love to know exactly how many people have done that, actually, because it's probably a tiny number.
It's a tiny number.
Not a million miles off the number of people who've been to the moon and things like that.
Yeah. And it's so, in a way, it's so beautifully simple because it's purely skill based.
Yeah, totally, completely.
But to get those seats, you have to be the absolute very best of the best.
Yeah.
And there's something kind of beautifully pure in that, which is quite cool.
Agreed. That's a great answer. Thank you so much for taking the time to do this, Richard. It's really appreciated, and
not at all. It's been a pleasure.
People will enjoy those three answers. I thought they were great.
Well, thank you very much for having me. It's been fun to do it. Thank you.
Brilliant. Cheers.